Hey gang, it's Squill, and today we've got what is easily the most divisive episode of Fionna and Cake Season 2. The insect that's sane is the 8th episode of Fionna and Cake's 2nd season. The insect here obviously refers to Scarab, but he doesn't do any singing in this one. That would be Marshall. I suppose he does talk a lot, which is kinda like singing. Anyways, we've got a pretty sick cold open for this one, done by guest animator Johnny Peppers, an animator whose work I'm actually a little bit familiar with. Their art style is very messy, but in a good way. It's super unique and expressive. I highly recommend their film Barbara Westchester. It's free on YouTube. Their art style absolutely carries the sequence as we get a bit of backstory for the Heart of the Forest. As it turns out, the Heart was trapped by a group of bandit wizards so that they would always have access to green magic. I think the most interesting revelation here is that Spirit Dream Warrior is the one who led the bandits to the Heart. I wonder why. Back in the Crocodile Who Bit a Log, we also see him lead Huntress Wizard to the Green Wizards too. I wonder what he gets out of all these wizards knowing green magic. I've got a feeling he's up to something nefarious, though I have no idea what that would be. After the intro, we're greeted with DJ Flame's statue being taken from the mausoleum and thrown into the ocean. As it turns out, since Marshall isn't playing anymore, Hannah pulled out of the venue. I love that Hannah has an escape hatch under her chair. That's so stupid, but really funny. Right after this, we learn that Felix is still trapped by the lemon carbs, in what is a very cute reference to Flame Princess. Before Fionna can resolve any of these issues, however, she and Huntress are taken by a mysterious blue orb, leaving it up to Cake to take care of everything. As it turns out, the pair were taken by Orbo, who makes his grand return in this episode. I love Orbo, one of my favorite characters introduced in the spin-offs. He's great in Jerry, and he's great in this episode. As it turns out, Fionna and Huntress are on trial for committing a cosmic crime, murdering the Cosmic Owl. Orbo says their punishment will be an eternity in the Pain Vortex, which makes me wonder if this implies the Citadel is still destroyed. But regardless, I really like the idea of Fionna and Huntress being put on cosmic trial. It's very fun. It reminds me a bit of the trial episode of Steven Universe, and it gives us some fun cameos like Party God. And speaking of characters coming back, we also have Scarab to give his witness testimony, in what is probably his best role in the series so far. I didn't really love him as the main villain in Season 1, especially the more the season went on, but I think he works really well as a petty, hammy secondary villain. And Fionna playing defense attorney makes for some very funny interactions. I think her calling Scarab a dick was probably the hardest I laughed all season. It catches me off guard every time. During a flashback sequence, we get a pretty cute reference to Rumblejaw, a fake project that some crew members made artwork for while they were actually working on distant lands. We also got a reference to this back in BMO. We also see an alternate universe where Finn and Jake are both cars. That looks pretty awesome. We then get a brief testimony from a very drunk and depressed Prismo. Man, I'm glad Cosmic Owl isn't permanently dead, because it's gotta be rough losing both him and Jake almost back to back. Those are like two of Prismo's only friends. Back in Fionna World, Cake decides to take charge and win back the Sweet Spot. It's cool seeing her take matters into her own hands here. She's very likable this episode. She starts by rescuing DJ Flame from the lemon carbs. Here we get another appearance from these guys, the cosmic criminals released from Scarab's eggs back in Cheers. Much like Kairos these guys have also turned against Fionna and Cake to work as security for an antagonist. What can I say? Times are tough. Times are tough. After trapping the lemon carbs, Cake realizes that their place makes for a pretty sick venue. So naturally, she invites everyone over. Back at the trial, Fionna, backed into a corner, pins the blame on Finn. One of a few controversial things she does in this episode. It's interesting, however, because Fionna later describes this as hearing a gut voice telling her it was the right thing to do. And we later learn in The Bear and the Rose that said gut voice was Finn himself. I do wonder if this is another example of Finn being self-destructive, or if he had an actual plan here. I'd probably guess it's more so the former, but to his credit, it does work in buying Fionna and Huntress some more time. I will say, even though I quite like the trial portion of this episode, it does bother me that Huntress Wizard barely gets anything to do in it outside of getting mad at Fionna and Orbo. Like, there's a part here where Huntress is physically silenced by Orbo, and if that doesn't say everything about what they do with her character this season, then I don't know what does. I wish the show actually did something with the conflict between her and Fionna, over whether or not it's a good idea to blame Finn. And in general, I just wish the trial itself got more screen time, even if I liked what we did get of it. Back in Fionna World, Marshall catches Simone just outside the venue, and the two reunite. And as a resolution to this arc, I find the scene super lame and underwhelming. Much like everything else Marshall and Simone get this season, it's too brief for it to really mean much to me, and the dialogue just feels really awkward. I don't know, when you spend half the season building up to these two characters reuniting, it should feel a little more satisfying than this. I'm not expecting something as good as I Remember You, but is a storyline that's at least 1% as emotionally investing really too much to ask for? Anyway, after this we begin the fundraiser, hosted by none other than the non-flying squirrel, who's pretty funny here. It's kinda crazy how this guy went from having a single speaking role in the original series to basically being a recurring character in Fionna and Cake, but hey, I'm not complaining. I like getting to hear more of the Marshmallow Kids rap. It playing over Fionna defending Finn was really funny. And speaking of songs, this is followed by Marshall deciding to sing his song, Trustfall. And despite me not really caring for his arc at all this season, I do quite like the song. Chris Collins has a great singing voice, and I think the moment still works for me emotionally, even if it could have been attached to a stronger storyline. Also, the backup vocals here reminded me a lot of Slow Dance from Marcy and Hudson. I like seeing Kate quite literally stretch herself thin to collect money for the sweet spot. It's a great showcase of what she's willing to do to help her friends. This is followed by her meeting Emkron backstage in a scene I actually really like, despite being critical of this storyline in previous videos. I really like how uncomfortable Cake is here, not because of Emkron himself, but because she doesn't like how she feels the need to change herself for him. It's a great subversive moment, and I think it plays well into Cake's identity crisis arc she's been having all season, even if I still think it would have been stronger had we seen more of her and Emkron's relationship. Cake passes out after this, and coincidentally, Fionna and Huntress are sent back at the same moment. And this is where shit really hits the fan, with Fionna realizing that Boys Night was pulled off completely without her. I've seen a lot of people give Fionna shit for her reaction to this, and while I totally think she deserves criticism for what she does after this, I don't think her feelings here are invalid. Fionna put a lot of work into setting up this fundraiser, not to mention her hero complex that's been eating away at her all season. She probably feels very useless, seeing that it all could have very easily been done without her. And yeah, obviously she's being selfish, the fundraiser is supposed to be about Gary and Marshall, but I think her feelings here are totally understandable. But hey, if getting a little upset was the worst thing Fionna did this episode, then it probably wouldn't be as divisive as it is. As, in the heat of the moment, she also kisses DJ Flame right in front of Fennel. I criticized last episode for not really focusing enough on Fennel as a character, but to its credit, her and Fionna bonding does make this moment stronger for me, as Fionna has now hurt someone she just realized she actually kind of likes. And this moment is immediately followed by probably the most controversial scene of the entire season, Fionna wrecking the sweet spot. This is a moment that basically everyone was talking about after this episode released, discussing whether or not it is a valid crash out. But you're all probably on the edge of your seat asking, what does Squill think? Well, I'm a bit of a fence-sitter, as this scene both does and doesn't work for me. Let me explain. On the one hand, I think this season did a great job building up to Fionna having a big crash-out scene like this. Like I said, she's been working really hard all season to get this fundraiser to happen, all while dealing with the trauma she endured last season and her fear of hurting the people around her. It's basically a self-fulfilling prophecy. She feels like she's going to hurt the people around her, and so she does, which is emphasized by her asking herself if she secretly wanted them to fail, which, by the way, is very similar to a line Finn had back in Cloudy. And in Fiona's defense, while getting in a bulldozer is certainly its dream, I definitely don't think she meant to wreck up the sweet spot this bad. Like, she definitely went out of her way to try and avoid Gary and Marshall's vans, and she very clearly regrets the whole thing immediately after it happens. What she does here is still bad, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to defend her. I just don't think it's irredeemably bad like a lot of people act like. That being said, however, it's still probably a bit too much to have her be forgiven as easily as she is in only one episode. I think it could have worked better if this happened like an episode before, thus giving us more time to linger in the consequences of Fiona's actions. I'll talk about this a bit more in my review of The Bear and the Rose, but I do think that Fiona's actions in this episode, while not completely irredeemable, are a bit too much to have her get off basically scot-free in the end. Either tone down what Fionna does in this episode, have her work a bit harder to earn her forgiveness, or just don't end the season with everyone completely forgiving her. Although I guess for that last one, the crew probably didn't know whether or not they'd be getting another season, and didn't want to potentially end the show on such a downer. While this is all going on, Huntress Wizard realizes that the roses scattered across Fionna World are this world's heart of the forest. I'm not really sure what was stopping her from realizing this before, but okay. You guys see what I mean when I say Huntress's arc is just not developed enough, right? I feel like I'm going a little crazy every time someone calls her the highlight of the season. Anyways, Huntress Wizard once again goes inside Fiona's mind, ending the Fionna World side of this episode. We do get a bit of ooh stuff in this episode though, including a brief but funny scene I skipped by earlier, in which Simon, PB, and Marcy go back to the heart of the forest. I love seeing that blue blindfold space from Hall of Egress again, a great reference to one of the best episodes of the entire show. PB using the ball bland burglar bird to put down the heart of the forest was really dark but really funny, as is BMO saying that Finn has ascended from this plane. And that was The Insect That's Sane, an episode that has its hiccups, but is one that I quite like overall. The trial stuff was all very fun and made great use out of characters like Scarab and Orbo. And I enjoyed seeing Cake pull off the fundraiser. This was a great episode for her. Fionna does a lot of messed up stuff here, but it's an interesting direction to take with her character, and one that I can't help but respect. And Huntress Wizard is certainly here too. And with that, we only have 2 episodes left to go, plus a ranking at the end. Hoping to finish covering this season by midway through May. Sorry this one took so long, I got kinda burnt out. But with that, let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments, and join me next time for the penultimate episode of the season, The Worm and His Orchard. Have a good one, and Squill out.